The bottle sat on the counter, untouched. Ethan Walker ran his fingers over its label, tracing the faded letters. 3 years sober. That's what the little coin in his pocket said, the one from his recovery group. 3 years since he last let the burn of whiskey drown the nightmares. 3 years since he admitted he had a problem. 3 years since he lost everything. His eyes flickered to the photograph taped to the wall. Rachel's smile, warm, hopeful. A younger Ethan beside her, his arm around her shoulders, the hint of a cocky grin on his lips. And, in her arms, a baby girl, Lily. She had been just a few months old when he left. Not because he didn't love them. God, he loved them. But he had come home from war broken. The ghosts of his past following him into every room, lurking in every shadow. The nightmares weren't just dreams. They were memories on repeat. Rachel had tried to help. "Talk to me, Ethan. Let me in. You're scaring me." But he hadn't let her in. He had shut her out, snapped at her, raged at the world, drowned himself in alcohol until the voices quieted. Then, one night, Rachel had packed her bags, Lily in her arms. She hadn't begged him to follow, and he hadn't tried to stop her. Now, standing outside her house for the first time in 2 years, Ethan felt his gut twist. It was a quiet neighborhood, the kind with neatly trimmed lawns, kids' bikes left out on the grass, and wind chimes swaying on porches. The kind of place he had always wanted to give Lily, but never could. His hand hovered over the doorbell. What if she slammed the door in his face? What if Lily didn't even remember him? What if she had already told her new husband, whoever he was, that her ex-husband was dead? Before he could talk himself out of it, Ethan knocked. The door opened a moment later, and there she was, Rachel. Her brown eyes widened in shock, lips parting slightly as if trying to find words. Her hair was shorter now, but the same stubbornness burned in her gaze, the same resilience that once held their family together before he tore it apart. Ethan swallowed hard. "Hey, Rach." Her expression hardened. "Ethan!" God, even hearing her say his name again hurt. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. He saw the way her hand gripped the doorknob, like she was holding herself steady. Then, before he could say another word, she whispered, "Why are you here?" His throat felt tight. He rubbed the back of his neck, struggling. "I wanted to see her." Rachel exhaled, shaking her head. "You don't get to just show up after all this time and..." "Please." The word came out rough, desperate. "I'm not asking for much, just a chance to see my daughter." Silence stretched between them, then a small voice floated from behind Rachel. "Mommy, who's that?" Ethan's breath caught. Rachel tensed, glancing over her shoulder. Then, reluctantly, she stepped aside, and there she was, Lily. She was 6 now, taller than the baby he had last seen, with loose curls framing her tiny face, and those big, blue eyes, his eyes, staring at him like he was a stranger. Ethan felt his whole world tilt. She didn't know him, didn't remember him, didn't recognize her own father. His chest clenched, but he forced himself to kneel to her level, his hands shaking. "Hey, kiddo," he said softly. I'm your dad." Lily tilted her head. "You left," she said bluntly. The words hit like a bullet. Ethan's throat tightened. "Yeah," he admitted. "I did?" Lily studied him for a long moment, then she turned back to Rachel. "Can I go play now?" Rachel hesitated, looking between them. "Go ahead, sweetheart." Ethan watched as his daughter ran back into the living room, her small form disappearing. He let out a shaky breath. Rachel folded her arms. "This was a mistake." "Wait," Ethan said quickly. "Please, I'm different now." Rachel let out a dry laugh. "Different!" She stepped closer, her voice a whisper. "Do you have any idea what it was like, raising her alone, watching her wonder why her dad never came back?" Ethan's hands curled into fists at his sides. He had imagined it 1,000 times. "I didn't leave because I didn't love you," he said quietly. "I left because I didn't know how to love you right." Rachel's lip trembled for half a second before she masked it with anger. "Prove it!" Over the next few weeks, Ethan showed up. He attended PTSD support meetings, got a job at a mechanic shop, stayed sober. And every weekend, Rachel let him see Lily. At first, Lily was distant. She asked questions Rachel had no answers for. Why didn't you call me? Did you forget about me? Are you going to leave again? Each one was a knife to the gut, but slowly he earned her trust. He taught her how to ride a bike, helped her with homework, showed her how to skip rocks at the lake. One night, while tucking her in, Lily whispered, "Are you going to stay?" Ethan's chest ached. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Forever," he promised. But then came the setback. They were at the park. It was a good day, until a car backfired. The sound was deafening, sudden, sharp. Before Ethan even knew what was happening, he dropped to the ground, heart pounding, hands over his head. When he looked up, Rachel was standing there, Lily clinging to her leg, terrified. Rachel's face was pale. "You're not ready," she whispered. Ethan felt like his world was shattering. "I am," he rasped. "Please don't take her away from me again." Rachel swallowed hard. "Ethan, I don't know if I can trust you yet." It took another 6 months. Another 6 months of proving, of showing, of being the father he was meant to be. Until one night, as Ethan walked Rachel to her door, she turned to him. Her walls were still up, but there was hope in her eyes. "Let's take it slow," she said softly. And for the first time in years, Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Yeah," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Slow is good." As he walked back to his truck, he glanced over his shoulder. Rachel hadn't closed the door yet, and for the first time in a long time, home didn't feel so far away. Some battles aren't fought overseas. Some battles are fought in the heart. And the hardest war of all? Winning back the ones you love.